Friday, 4th March, the Gap News this morning, broadcasting live from Kuala Lumpur, I'm Ghazali Abdullah. Good morning. First, the headlines. Ex-Sabah Chief Minister slams Thomas over inaccuracies on Sulu sultans. 1,841 new hospital admissions, ICUs at 41% capacity. Ringgit rebounds to open higher against US dollar. Fire department on standby after embankment breaks at Taman Sri Muda. Zelensky asks Putin for talks as humanitarian crisis grows. UK Defence Secretary says Russia's invasion is not going to plan. And Badminton Association of Malaysia sending juniors, backup shuttlers, to Hanoi. And now the news in full. A former Sabah Chief Minister has ripped into former Attorney General Tommy Thomas, saying his book contains inaccuracies that are now being used by the heirs of Sulu sultans to support their claims against Malaysia. Yong Teck Lee called on Thomas to retract a statement in his book titled My Story, Justice in the Wilderness that reads, "At some point in its history, North Borneo was part of the Sulu Sultanate. As a matter of historical fact, Sabah, otherwise North Borneo, was never part of the Sulu Sultanate," Yong said in a statement yesterday. The entire Federal Attorney General's chambers should be given a proper lesson on Sabah history, he said, adding the AGC should read a book written by former AG Abdul Ghani Patel titled Putting to Rest on the Sulu Sultanate's Claim over Sabah. Yong said this was a more accurate record of the legal and political history of Sabah than Thomas's book. There were 1,841 new hospital admissions involving COVID-19 cases yesterday, the Health Ministry said. Of this, 1,164 cases were in categories 1 and 2, while 677 were in categories 3, 4 and 5. Selangor had the highest number of new admissions with 328, followed by Johor 243 and Perak 237. Meanwhile, 1,376 patients were discharged yesterday. In a statement, Health Director General Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said COVID-19 intensive care units ICUs were at 41% of their total capacity of 868 beds. The ringgit rebounded against the US dollar Thursday, buoyed by buying interest and supported by the firmer oil prices. At 9 a.m. Thursday, the local note stood at 4.1890/1930 versus the greenback, compared with 4.1935/1955 at Wednesday's close. The situation is under control in Taman Sri Muda, Shah, despite the breaking of an embankment near a floodgate along the Klang River in the vicinity of the neighborhood. It is understood that as a result, water has broken the banks of the river. According to the Selangor Fire and Rescue Department, an emergency call was received at 8:15 p.m., with officers arriving at the scene by 8:30 p.m. However, the department's chief, Nur Azam Hamis, says the situation is under control. Ukraine's President Zelensky has asked Vladimir Putin for one-to-one talks, saying this is the only way to end the war. He also appealed to the West to give me planes to fight invasion. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators agreed to organize humanitarian corridors to evacuate civilians. Meanwhile, Putin insists the war is going to plan, despite taking only one major city. The UK has imposed sanctions on 2 more Russian oligarchs. In Mariupol, a southern port near Ukraine's border with Russia, civilians are trapped by intense shelling. If Russia captures more southern cities, Ukrainian forces could be cut off from the sea. Kiev remains in government control and a large Russian armored convoy is some distance away. More than 1 million people have fled Ukraine since the invasion began. The UK's Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, says that Russia's military strategy is not going to plan. He told the BBC's Jonathan Beale that logistics recovered from armored vehicles show the Russian army is behind schedule and that plans to appeal to Ukrainians as liberators have failed. Meanwhile, President Putin insisted Russia's invasion is going to plan in a televised address on Thursday. And now for some sports news. The Hanoi SEA Games in May is the best platform for the country's young badminton players to prove their abilities under pressure and make a name for themselves on the international stage. The opportunity comes following the Badminton Association of Malaysia (BAM) deciding to send a combination of juniors and backup players to shoulder the national challenge at the biennial games scheduled from May 12 to 23rd. BAM Secretary General Dato' Kenny Goh said this decision was taken as the SEA Games overlaps with the prestigious Thomas Cup and Uber Cup tournaments scheduled to take place in Bangkok from May 8 to 15. To end the bulletin, here are the headlines again. Ex-Sabah Chief Minister slams Thomas over inaccuracies on Sulu sultans. 1,841 new hospital admissions, ICUs at 41% capacity. Ringgit rebounds to open higher against US dollar. Fire department on standby after embankment breaks at Taman Sri Muda. Zelensky asks Putin for talks as humanitarian crisis grows. UK Defence Secretary says Russia's invasion is not going to plan. And Badminton Association of Malaysia sending juniors backup shuttlers to Hanoi. This has been the Gap News this morning, Friday, 4th March, with reports from Free Malaysia Today, The Vibes and the BBC World Service. The Gap News is also available on the internet news portal Melaka Hari Ini. We hope you found the bulletin informative. We certainly welcome hearing from you. If you do have the opportunity, please do write in. We would certainly love to hear from you. Podcasting live from Kuala Lumpur, I'm Ghazali Abdullah.